My name is Jeanette Falk Olesen, and together with Professor Kim Halskov, we conducted a literature review on 10 years of research with and on hackathons. In this video, I will talk a bit about how and why we conducted the literature review. I will also highlight some findings of our review. However, for details and discussions of the method, I refer to our paper. First, I will briefly introduce our paper before I move on to presenting our findings. We reviewed 381 articles which we chose to extract from the ACM Digital Library. In the paper, we discussed some limitations of this choice. From conducting the literature review, we learned about how research and hackathons have developed over the years. We furthermore conducted a thematic analysis of the papers, where we developed and reiterated codes to analyze the papers. From this, we identified 3 motivations for using hackathons in research. For each of the 3 motivations, we furthermore identified 2 types of research categories. From conducting the literature review, we also gained insight into the benefits and challenges of hackathon formats, as described by the authors of the reviewed papers. Now I will talk a bit about our motivation for conducting the study. Our motivation for conducting the literature review was to learn more about how these formats have been used and adapted by researchers. From our own experiences with hackathons and from reading studies which research hackathon formats specifically, we acknowledge that hackathon formats are today used in many different ways. Motivated by this and by our research interest into how hackathon formats shape design processes, we wanted to map out some of the different ways researchers have engaged with hackathon formats, and furthermore how hackathon formats have been adapted for different purposes. The paper is therefore intended to provide an overview of how hackathons have been part of research. As I said earlier, there are many different use cases of hackathons in this perspective, and we therefore aim for breadth over depth in our literature review. Through this literature review, we hope to offer a stepping stone for how to further advance the use and discussion of hackathon formats, especially for research purposes. Hackathon organizers may also find the overview beneficial. Now I will briefly describe the method, but as I said before, I refer to the paper for the details and a discussion of the limitations. We searched for a hackathon in the full text of publications and within the year range of 2000 to 2018. This resulted in 525 publications. After a filtering process, we ended up with 381 publications for further analysis. After a thematic analysis on the 381 publications, we ended up with identifying 3 motivations, 2 research types, and furthermore benefits and challenges of the formats. Now I will talk a bit about some of the findings of our review. The first motivation is for structuring learning. A major part of the publications uses hackathons for structuring and facilitating learning. The hackathons in this context are referred to as both extracurricular activities and part of a more formal educational setting. Many of the publications introduced hackathons in education in order to improve participant skills related to, for example, computer science, communication, and collaboration. Students are even recommended to participate in hackathons in order to improve their profile as computing professionals or in industry or academia in general. The second motivation is structuring processes. The publications address the use of hackathons or hackathon-inspired formats to structure workshops, to develop outcomes for further research, and to evaluate research. The focus of the publications is the outcome of hackathons and the facilitation of certain outcomes. Outcome in this context can be in the form of prototypes, but it can also be in the form of empirical data, such as observations. The third motivation is what we call enabling participation. Research with hackathons with the purpose of engaging citizens and communities focus on the activity of the people participating in the hackathons. The publications entail research where hackathons are the setting for engaging participants in computing for good, for example, for engaging citizens with public organizations, for increasing diversity of participants, and lastly, research where hackathons are discussed in the perspective of making and the maker movement. For each motivation, we found two types of research: research with and on hackathons. Research with hackathons include research using hackathons as part of the research approach, for example as an integral part of the method, or mentioned as related work, but it is not the focus or object of study in the research. The second type indicates that the focus is directed at the hackathon format in particular. This could, for example, be research on the role of hackathons as a cultural phenomenon, or on the effects of the format in educational settings. Publications of this type aim specifically towards contributing to the understanding of the phenomena of hackathons. Since the number of publications which were categorized as belonging to research with hackathons were quite large and diverse compared to research on hackathons, we further divided the first category into two subcategories: hackathons as example and hackathons as means. Publications using hackathons as means indicates a more direct involvement of hackathons in the research approach, where hackathons often contributed directly to the data generation. This could be as a planned activity in succession of other research activities. Where researchers use hackathons as an example, they often point towards hackathons together with other phenomena as something that exemplifies an overarching topic. This is often in related work or future research section, and is not as such part of the research's methodology. From 2007 and until 2012, publications mainly referred to hackathons as an example, or used the formats as means for the research. Research on hackathon first began to appear in 2013 with only a few publications yearly until 2016, where significantly more research on hackathons starts getting published. Researchers conducted significantly more research with hackathons before research on hackathon formats were conducted. Since 2016, there is still much more research with hackathons being conducted than on hackathons. This can be seen as reflecting how researchers have acknowledged and embraced hackathon formats as part of their research. In the paper, we present several thematically representative examples which are structured after the three motivations. For each of the motivations, we zoom in on how researchers have conducted research with and on hackathons. We further divided the three motivations and types of research into the different themes as can be seen here. Lastly, in the paper, we provide a table divided into benefits and challenges, seen in the two columns. The light gray area represents the first motivation of structuring learning. The gray area is the benefits and challenges of structuring processes, while the dark gray area is the benefits and challenges of enabling participation. This concludes the end of this video. As I mentioned before, for detailed findings, examples, and discussions, we refer to our paper. Thank you for watching.